All right, let's open the Monday, October 17th, 2016 Select Board meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Chris, what do we got on our agenda? First is the accounts payable and payroll. Is that in here? Okay.
Okie dokie. So I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable manifest of October 10th, 2016, and the payroll manifest of October 11th, 2016.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alrighty then. The next item is the amended. Okay, we'll just let everybody sign those and then we'll go into the minutes. Thank you. Okay. Meeting, approve outstanding minutes. The only outstanding minutes we have, I believe, are October 3rd.
We have public and non-public.
Yeah, yep. Let's start with the public.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from October 3rd, 2016.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. I have to admit, I did not look at the non-public. Did you guys look at those?
I did not.
Do you want to defer?
Yes.
Okay, we'll put off December 3rd non-public until the next meeting.
October.
October 3rd. Okay? All right. BOS reports from assigned boards and committees. Tyler, did the budget committee meet?
Nope.
Nope.
I'll tell you until the November 10th.
Okay.
No,
Oh,
this week.
this week. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. November, I was looking at today, it's the Marine Corps birthday and they have a meeting on that date, so I may not be present to that one.
Are you good? Are you good with this Thursday?
I'm good with this
Okay,
Thursday.
great. All right, planning?
We went over the budget, and sent that back to Chris, I believe.
Yes.
And we made some necessary changes to the accessory dwelling unit because of some changes in the last legislative cycle.
Okay.
There's gonna be a subcommittee that works on the lighting ordinance. And we had a joint meeting with the zoning board, conservation commission, and us, and we're also gonna make some changes to setbacks, the definition of setbacks.
Okay.
Which is necessary because of some cases that came before us this year where there was confusion in the language, in interpretation of the setback, so we'll be
So is it just a matter of
clearing that up.
clearing up the language, not changing any setback rules?
It's, yeah, it's a matter of kind of clearing it up
Okay.
to what the original intent was.
And lighting is what's the gist of the lighting?
There is a current lighting, ordinance. It's been on the books for quite a while.
Yeah.
So it's, I think, a matter of, updating it to maintain the dark skies as best we can.
Okay.
And impact fee study report will be going over next Wednesday,
Good, okay.
so,
Wow, that's good.
yeah.
Okay. CIP committee, we have not met. I'm gonna try and get a date together. Hopefully next Tuesday. We'll check with the rest of the members of the committee. I think as I explained last time, we're taking a look at redoing the report, mostly because we want it to be meaningful and helpful to people, so that not only are we outlining the expenses, but trying to reflect what we've already got in reserve funds, what would have to be bonded, so it represents a more accurate picture of what tax impacts would be. Chris has done a first pass on that report, so I just, wanna get the committee together one more time to just kind of discuss. I know I had some tweaks to it.
So when you say the report, the one that goes into the,
Well,
town.
the one that goes into the town report has
Report.
actually been different than the report that the committee works off of, right? And the one that goes into the town report has actually been a little more comprehensive. So, I think it's gonna bring the two of them closer. And, you know, it's the one that kind of like the budget committee uses. We're also moving away from the actual ranking,
Yeah,
or rating
yeah,
of items, because it's, well, first off, it's a little subjective.
it's very subjective.
Yeah. And, not everybody interprets the rating the same way.
Yeah.
And, you know, are you rating it for this year, or are you rating it for 5 years out, which is, you know, a difficult thing. So we think it's more beneficial to just show what the sources of funding are and what the tax impact would be on a year-to-year basis. Okay, that's it for assigned boards and committees. Town administrator report.
Just a couple things. Zach Frazier is about to finish his trail out here. For his Eagle Scout project, he's gonna have a little grand opening affair Saturday at 8:30 in the morning.
Oh, good.
It's looking good. It's just a lot going on out there that wasn't there before.
Great.
Yeah, it looks good. I actually had somebody complimenting it this afternoon after they'd been out there, so. Saturday, 8:30 to 9:30. You can use it anytime, of course.
Of course.
And Chris, just a question on that, the ongoing maintenance of that,
There isn't much, you know, if we have trouble with one of the fixtures or something he's built, we can probably, fix it up, we'll find somebody to fix it up. It's not that equipment intensive. We've never maintained the trail per se. The hardest part of that trail is a couple of water crossings, and they've shored those up quite a bit, so, I think it'll be minimal, and we can probably handle it.
What's the length of the trail?
Well, there's one that goes way back, straight back, and then there's
Yep.
a part that loops around and comes back down by the gazebo.
Oh, wow,
here,
okay.
So, the way back, enters private property.
yeah,
I
I
don't
think it's
know.
an old Jeep trail, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like-
I bet it's a mile, it's a long way.
Wow,
Uh,
good.
And he had a sign out there, it's a turnaround here, which
Oh, okay.
lasted about a week, I think, and somebody got it, so.
So is it going out on private property that we?
No, he's got a sign that says turn around at the end of town property.
Okay,
Um,
so that's gone, but are we gonna put something back up?
yeah, he's gonna put some stuff
Okay, okay, good. Well,
back.
that's very neat.
Second thing, our hazard mitigation plan is due for updating. we had a grant for that, and we had it in the budget, and we've contracted with Stratford Regional Planning to do the bulk of the work. The plan is really an inventory of potential problems and, a kind of an introductory response to those problems. It's not super in-depth, but it turns into a big document, but it's not trying to foresee every single thing. Anyway, ours is due to be updated, and that process involves getting a committee of folks together to review what we have already, update it, et cetera, talk through those things. It's, our public safety people, building inspector, road agent. They've asked for a member of the planning board, and I believe Teresa volunteered to do that. So
I believe she
That's
was
all right from your meeting?
volunteered.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
And they've also asked for a member of the board of selectmen to do that. So if any of you are interested in that, it's probably a couple, 3 meetings over the course of 3 months.
Yeah.
Um,
All right, do you have an interest in that?
Would they be daytime meetings
We're
or?
trying to keep it that way, but I realize that doesn't work for everybody, but
Yeah,
it's for all of our, it's mostly staff.
yeah.
So
Would it be like morning meetings?
we can tweak it. There's no set.
I'm fine with doing that.
Okay.
And we can, for you, end of day, I think is typically better, but we can work with
Yeah.
you on
Yep,
whatever.
Okay.
make it work.
Okay. We'll keep it as painless as possible.
Put me on the list.
Excellent, thank you. And that's all I got. You meet every 2 weeks, not as much happens.
Seriously.
Hey, that's good.
All right, you guys have any questions for Chris? Okay. Do you want us to go through this? Or do you want to defer?
No, that's all, you can tackle all that. That is, 3 merit pay increases, 1 new hire, rate approval, for the new police officer, notifying Secretary of State of the change in the polling place,
Ah, okay.
a letter to employees about questions on the personnel policy,
Mhm.
and the deed and the purchase and sale agreement for Rozier, which you approved at your last meeting. The town-owned lot that we bid out, the deed and the purchase and sale agreement are there for signature as well. Tackle what you want, and we can come back to it later if you want.
I do have a question for you guys though, as far as, getting us scheduled for the election.
Yeah, we should talk about that.
Yeah.
So when there's a change in where the election is gonna be held, you have to notify, or you have to notify every
Yeah, they
time?
publish statewide where the polling places are, and
Okay.
you have the authority to do that. You can't change the time, but you can.
Do you have to do this every time just to show them where the location is, or it's just because there's a change?
I think it's just because there's a change.
Okay.
No, we do that every time? We do it every time. Oh, see? So you've seen
And-
that before.
Oh, I remember. Do you want us to sign both copies?
Please.
Do we have signage to put out by the school that it's gonna be like, vote here, not there?
Yeah, the vote here,
Sign that was out
vote here
front
signs
here?
that usually go up there, will go up there the week before.
Before.
And, we'll use the temporary signage stuff that we use for rec here.
Yeah,
And any other ideas of where we can spread that? I mean, we put stuff in the stores and the post offices that says, changing polling place, but
yeah,
if there's anything else kind of informal that you think will work, we're all ears.
I think that's it.
Let's talk a little bit later about
Okay.
distribution. Since both of our folks for our 7 PM are here, shall we go early with them? Want to just,
You ready?
yeah, like, as soon as we're finished signing this, why don't we go with them?
Okay. You can tell Jeff started early?
You can ask them.
Okay.
They shouldn't get him out of here early. They don't wanna go early? Seriously, okay.
I expected that.
Oh, okay,
I was very kind
okay. Personally, I wouldn't wanna get home earlier, but that's fine. All right. Well, we'll let these guys finish signing. Cool.
He knows when he was board of selectmen. If we posted that we would start something at 7, he always wanted to start at 7 or whatever time it was.
Fair enough. Did,
It's just the one.
you all set? All right, Chris. Intro to tax rate setting.
Tax rate setting.
Okay, where do you want us to look?
Well, you have a spreadsheet
Yep.
and a thing that says three-finger rule at the top, I believe?
Yep.
Okay. So since two of you haven't been through this before, I just
And one
wanted
doesn't
to,
remember.
and one doesn't remember, I wanted to give you some intro, because it happens pretty quickly when it does happen. The Department of Revenue Administrations is the authority that sets the tax rate. We like to think that we do those things, but
Yeah.
actually the state does
Yeah.
it. That is a sausage making exercise where we throw a whole bunch of ingredients into the computer and the computer comes back with a tax rate for us. So I just wanted to kind of give you the high points on that. And there are two pieces left that you have to make decisions on that will impact the tax rate.
Okay.
We pretty much know all of the numbers now, and that's what you're looking at. They may not be exactly right, so we qualify everything, and until we see the final number, we don't talk about it. We qualify everything and saying that these are estimates, but, 2 years ago, the DRA started moving to an online process where, we're uploading stuff, the school district is uploading stuff, and we can see it all well in advance. We know what they're using to make the numbers. It's getting to be a relatively painless process.
Okay.
And everything, town and school this year was essentially on time.
Yeah.
We're locked and loaded and ready. That hasn't always been the case. There's always a piece that somehow gets hung up or this, but anyway, we're in good shape. DRA works its way through the various 200 and something cities and towns. When our day comes up, it comes up and they want us to move pretty quickly. Once they're ready to handle us, they send us a form that says, okay, here are your numbers. What do you want for those last two variables? We'll plug those in, we'll look it over one last time, and then send you the formal warrant document that says this is your tax rate.
Okay.
You may hear the expression in the queue, that means you're on deck or
Yep.
in the queue. The way we have done this historically here, and you don't have to do it this way, but we have done it essentially by email and phone between the four of us. They would like it to be a same-day affair at DRA, and that the odds of us coming up on a Monday that you have a meeting is pretty slim. So I try to have you all the pieces so you can kind of think about those decisions ahead of time and be ready to pull the trigger. To walk through the biggest numbers here, town appropriations are what town meeting voted on. Town revenue is our estimated revenue based on what we had through September. That's an estimate that we produce in the office, you sign off on, which you did in September. It's conservative, but not ridiculously so.
Yeah.
You don't want to unintentionally take money out of the bank, by overshooting on your revenue estimate. So, this is one of the big drivers in the change in the tax rate for 2016. You can see that town revenues are down quite a bit from last year. That is, as I think we've talked about, last year we had some one-time events that just didn't happen again. We sold 2 pieces of real estate that we tax deeded, and we got a kind of a surprise grant reimbursement from FEMA late in the year that none of those things were budgeted, but they showed up as revenue. So we didn't have anything like that this year, anywhere near that scale.
Yeah.
So it looks like our revenue is way down. I gave you 2 years ago so you can see that we're actually, our kind of operating revenues, if you think about it in terms of operating revenues, we continue to climb. We're 200,000 over where we were 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
The bulk of that is vehicle registrations.
Yeah. Tyler, that's an important thing that the, the budget committee is gonna, ask about probably.
This does not include property tax revenue. This is everything else, really. This is the interest and fees from unpaid taxes or late paid taxes, but not the tax revenue itself.
Okay.
Third piece here is overlay. Overlay is one of those things that you're going to set, and overlay is a set aside for abatements, for the year ahead. You know that you're going to have some tax abatements, but you don't have any idea how much the Board of Assessors are going to grant.
Yep.
We typically are in that 20,000 range, 20 to 30. In 2015, we bumped that number up because it was a reval, and we expected that the reval would trigger more. We asked Avatar for a recommendation on that number. I suspect they'll come back to us this year with something around 25. And I penciled in 40 there because the Fairpoint lawsuit settlement is afoot. We don't know if we're gonna sign off on it, if it's gonna get approved, it's gonna get finalized, but this would be a place where we could set aside or plan ahead for that. And the last document that we saw on that, I think, was 14,000 or something like that close that lawsuit out, in credits or abatements. So we'll have an avatar recommendation for you before you set that number, but I suspect it's gonna be around that 40,000 that you're seeing there. War service credits is the veterans tax credit.
So, let me just understand these lines, because the town appropriations 43, well, 4,313,000 is what was appropriated at town meeting. So that reflects the amount of money that has to be raised, essentially, sort of.
That's one of the, yeah,
Yeah.
we're boiling down to a number that needs to be
Yeah,
raised.
so I'm just trying to understand that section, right? So then we're saying that 4.3 is gonna be offset by approximately 1.7 in revenue, but then the overlay gets deducted from that 1.7.
Yeah, there's a,
And the service credits gets deducted from that as well. So
Yes.
it's just it's a mix of,
it's a mix of minus and plus.
Yeah.
I should show you that better. It's
You should,
in my
yeah.
head, yes.
yeah,
it's-
yeah, just show the
The
parens.
1.7 is a negative number in this context, and the other ones are all positive.
Well, I think of it the opposite. The
Um,
revenue is a positive and the others are negatives, cause they're coming away.
Yeah, you're right, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Said that 1.7, that's all just registrations, that's no,
There's, everything else is in there too.
No
There's,
property tax.
no
no
property tax.
No property tax,
Okay.
right.
All right, so the net town effect is 2.7. And then we have the school appropriations, and you've got the same,
Yeah, that's, the school piece of this is hard for us to cut through, because the money moves around differently, and
Yeah,
we don't speak
yeah.
that language, but
yeah,
in mimicking prior years, we were able to recreate this.
okay,
And it's more detail than you need, you can't control
Sure.
any of it, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't explain it well enough,
okay.
so.
And then the county,
um,
that's the county,
That's the Rockingham County portion that's set by the delegation.
so that's what we owe the county.
Yeah, and that's been published, and that's a
Okay.
dollar amount.
Yep.
Which is, based on population, and I don't know what else.
Yep,
So those are all the big things to cook the tax rate with. The next section is the fund balance. You also, in addition to setting the overlay, you also have the option to take money from the fund balance and spend it to bring down the tax rate.
is the 14.2 the current, balance?
No.
No.
What is that?
That is the formula to get the percentage. What percentage is your fund balance?
Oh, so that's what it should be.
No, I almost didn't even show you that line because it's just too complicated to bother with, but that is the sum of all the appropriations and some of the revenue, and it's the denominator of the formula that
Okay.
drives that percentage.
Okay,
The actual fund balance at the end of 2015, which is the number that is the audited number that we have now,
yep,
is 1.673 million.
okay,
And 1.673 is in that, the context of, we've always talked about the recommended range of
Right.
yep, yep,
8 to 17% or 8
Yep.
to 15%.
yep,
From the Government Finance Officers Association. There's a few different ways to come up with these numbers, but the one that DRA uses is this one. As we sit right now, we're at 11.76%.
yep,
So that one-time revenue that we got last year shows up here. There's a big jump here.
right,
We went from 1.3 to 1.6.
yep,
Most of that is that one-time revenue from last year.
okay. So
'Cause
that's
we
another.
didn't have the authority to spend it when it came in last year, we just stuck it in the bank.
So that's another decision to be made is,
Right,
how much do we want?
right.
Yep, okay,
And so if you desire, you can take money out of the bank and buy down the tax rate. And that's where that number goes. And so that's the second piece that we'll have to decide in the rate setting exercise.
okay,
You can
And we
have a
haven't,
spreadsheet in front of you, you can plug a number in there and see what the impact on the tax rate is. you know, if you were to take, what? Pick a big number, 100,000, took 100,000 out of the fund balance, the tax rate would change to 2096 all the way at the bottom.
And we haven't used any in the last 2 years
Correct.
from the fund balance, because we were pretty much right at the
Well, we're at the 8 or,
Low-
what'd you say the
low
range was, 8 to
8 to
17?
8 to 17, 8 to
Yeah.
15.
So we're on the low end,
we were on the low.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so that's kind of what you were asking, that we could like factor around and,
So the two things you're looking for feedback on are the overlay and the fund
and the
balance.
fund balance.
Yeah, and you don't have to do that now, but that's the
Yeah.
question that
Got
we'll
it.
have to answer at tax rate setting now.
Yep,
The overlay is not, not gonna change it a great deal one way or the other.
yep,
And you have to have something there.
yep. Okay,
So, if you want to chew on that, play with the numbers, as I talk to you over the next couple weeks, I can get your sense of where you think, if you wanna do anything with the fund balance.
Yep.
And I don't have any sense of when we're going to be in rate setting yet, but
yep.
it's coming.
And just so I'm clear, so in 2015 is when the reval was done, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And what was your did you have any logic for leaving it at that level this year?
Overlay,
Yeah.
I was thinking go back to the 2014
Sure.
range
Yeah, yeah,
and add the Fairpoint settlement.
okay,
Yeah.
Put those two together, and that's a neighborhood that you're in.
okay. All right, it is, so you can walk us through the three-finger rule.
That, just take that with you and
It just
and
kind
play
of-
with it. Yeah, it's a neat trick. It's
Yeah.
not, it's a parlor trick for town meeting or whatever.
Okey dokey. All right, well, let's go to our 7 o'clock appointments. We were early and now we're 4 minutes late.
You didn't schedule that. I asked too many questions, I guess.
So, let's see, we've got Hal Rafter and Tom St. Martin. So, Hal, I think you're on the schedule first, or
Okay.
you're welcome to come up one at a time, or if you want to come together, that's, it's your call.
Whatever's convenient, I'll come right up.
Come on up.
I gather that this is broadcast, so
It is.
Yes.
I do feel that I should apologize to people for giving them my back. Normally I try to face everybody, but I guess that's not possible in this context.
No. The 3 viewers will forgive you.
You mean 300?
Yeah, that's it. Well, yeah, of course, I was just,
Well, thanks for letting us come in and meet you. I think we just wanted to introduce ourselves, find out, some of your concerns. I guess I should start off by saying I'm Hal Rafter from Nottingham, and I'm running for state rep in District 32, which covers Northwood, Nottingham, Candia, and Deerfield. And I'll let Tom introduce himself.
My name is Tom St. Martin. I am from Candia, and I am running for state rep in Rockingham 2, which is Candia, Deerfield, and Nottingham. 3 seats. There are 7 candidates. You get to choose any 3 that you like.
so are you guys running for the same,
Not in the same
okay,
seat.
so it's,
No, we're not.
Right.
so just, how is Nottingham in 2 different districts?
Well, the 3-seat district was created, well, both districts were created after the census in 2010.
Okay,
And because of the population, Nottingham's entitled to 4 seats total,
okay,
but it was split between the 3-seat district that Tom's running for and the 1-seat district that I'm running in.
okay,
So District 32 just has 1 seat, and District 2 has 3 seats total.
okay,
And there's 7 people running because there's 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats, and an independent.
okay. Okay. Very clear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting situation. Nottingham could have had its own rep. Northwood actually does have its
Okay.
own rep. But the way the redistricting worked out, for whatever reason, we didn't have our own.
Okay. So I think a good way to start is for each of you to tell us, you know, why you're running, and, you know, what you hope to accomplish, particularly as it relates to the town of Nottingham.
Well, I've been talking, you wanna go first, Tom?
Sure. As I mentioned, there are 7 candidates, and Hal mentioned it as well. Of the 7, one of the things that differentiates me, I think, from some of the others, it's very, very stylish, I guess, now, to talk about your dedication to the Constitution, and particularly as regards the Second Amendment. That's something that I have run into in talking with people in Nottingham. I would point out that I am, of the 7 candidates, the only veteran who is actually running in this race. I think that goes directly to my dedication to the Constitution, and not only the Second Amendment, but all the 26 others, and the body of the Constitution and the New Hampshire Constitution as well, of course. I am also one of the only 2 experienced state reps out of the 7. I believe that I am also the only former state rep with experience working across the aisle. I was a state rep in '93 and '94, and as such, I was very much in a minority. I was a minority of 130 to about 270. Nevertheless, I managed to get 4 bills through, and also managed to get work started on a traffic light for Candia. So I have experience working to get things done across party lines. I am from Candia, so rightfully you would wonder what relevance that is for Nottingham. I grew up in Raymond. My dad taught me how to start a standard shift car on Deerfield Road up here, which you can picture. It wasn't until I became an adult and tried to teach my own son how to drive that I understood just how much patience my dad really did have. So coming up in Raymond and living in Candia for 33 years, I've got some of the same small town background, but the reality is that I know a lot more about Candia than I do about Nottingham. Obviously, here I am talking with you all. If I am actually elected, then I will make an effort to get over here and come to meetings. I will also use the technology that we have now. We have things like GoToMeeting. You have this kind of video technology. So it's quite changed from the time when I was a state rep many years ago. So that's a little bit about my background. I can tell you the major things that interest me is really the opioid crisis. In Candia, it's become more and more noticeable, particularly with our proximity to Manchester. In my own personal life over the years, I have known 4 adults lost to drug overdoses, and actually recently another took that same path of dying as a result of the opioid crisis. I attended an informational night that was held by our school in cooperation with several other support groups and also with our law enforcement people. And there were a couple of things that came out of that. The number one thing is it's not only people that I happen to know, it is happening for all classes. It's across all generations. It doesn't seem to be stopped by race or anything else. It's a real crisis. There are an average of about 5 people dying every 4 days in New Hampshire from overdoses, and that's not even talking about the collateral damage. It's affecting the schools because suddenly you've got kids that are addicted or who have parents that have had to drop out, and now the kids are being raised by their grandparents, and it's really a problem. I have attended a couple of issues sessions, and the most promising in my mind is a 5-point plan that's been produced by a nonprofit group called New Futures, and also I think it's something that can be integrated with the Campaign for a Family-Friendly Economy to improve the economy in general for people and give them some hope. Part of the addiction and recovery cycle involves feelings of hopelessness and just not having the opportunity that one wants to get out of that. I'm happy to talk about either of those, but I don't want to take a lot of time, a lot more time. The most important single thing, I think, for a representative, we're talking about an area that has about 8,700 voters. There is no way that I can do everything that every one of those voters wants to do. It's just not humanly possible. The one thing that I will promise everybody is that I will listen with respect and an open mind. I can be persuaded that I'm wrong. I frequently am wrong, but when I do get things right, I do want to pursue them, and I am very willing to push for the things that I think are right. One thing that comes up that I did want to particularly mention to the board, from my own time as a state rep some time back, I was on municipal and county government. The way the legislature works is they split things into committees, just as you do for particular subject matter. As a municipal and county government member, I dealt a lot with select boards and what the issues were, everything ranging from, as I mentioned, a traffic light to dog licenses. I think one of the important things that I want to communicate to the board is very easy on a board of selectmen to forget that you have a resource in the State House over and above the New Hampshire Municipal Association. I think they're a local government center now is what they're called. When I was in, they were New Hampshire Municipal Association. So you're probably members of that, and they provide a lot of input for you, but sometimes a state rep can make a call that the NHMA or LGC isn't really able to do, and just shake things loose a little bit. Sometimes you might need that kind of inside help. And I really encourage the board, if I'm elected, obviously I want to be a resource for the board, for the school boards, for every citizen, of course, but you all are the ones that encounter most frequently the difficulties that come from state government sometimes, or sometimes from the bureaucracy itself. So I really encourage you to view your state representatives, whether I'm one of them or not, as a resource. And when there is something that comes up, don't hesitate to call them and get them to find out where the information is. I think it is also very important to consider yourselves a resource for your state representatives. For example, I might have something that comes up as a piece of legislation that I don't really know much about, and I might want to talk with one of you about it. So it's a bi-directional communication is what I'm trying to suggest. And that's pretty much what I have. I'm perfectly happy to answer any questions or chat about anything else that you would care to.
Well, my background, I've been on the school board in Nottingham for 8 years, and I was selectman for 3 years. And I think I don't have state level experience like Tom, but I think through my town level experience, I've worked with a variety of folks on boards, some of whom I had serious disagreements with, but I think I was able to, you know, work in a productive manner. So certainly want to carry that forward to the state level, because I think the focus should be on solving problems. And I think that state government needs to be more responsive to the local towns as well. You know, during my time on the Board of Selectmen and the school board, I think we had difficulty getting state reps, state senators, and other officials to respond, even to attend meetings when we invited them. And I, you know, echo Tom's, commitment that we would certainly be a presence. You know, we want to know what's going on and what your concerns are. And I think big picture in terms of what I see, you know, my goals would be as a state rep, part of it is, and a big part of it is overall, that the state is not really fulfilling a lot of its responsibilities. And I think the opioid crisis is one example where the state was kind of late to respond. There's obviously changes to prescribing practices that are needed, there's treatment that's needed. I don't think the state has really addressed it yet, and they were a little bit late, you know, to recognize the problem. From a fiscal perspective, we know at the town level that there's been cuts to state aid for education funding, there's been cuts to pension funding, there's been other cuts, you know, across the board. And I think the state, you know, needs to step up and fulfill its responsibilities in that regard. And obviously, the benefit is gonna be that property taxpayers will have a lighter burden than they have now. It's certainly gone up in Nottingham over the past 15 years. And some of it, you know, is just natural inflation, but some of it, a lot of it, is due to the state pulling back in its funding responsibilities. And I know we had Senator Reagan in at one point, and he said, well, the state just has no money. But the requirements to fund these obligations still fall on the town. And I'm not sure, I guess because the town can always raise property taxes, then there's no, that's the bottom line. And I think the state needs to be a little bit more responsible and, you know, help towns like Nottingham, you know, lessen that burden. So I guess in a nutshell, those are a couple of issues, and, you know, the big picture is just having a state government that's more responsive and is meeting its responsibilities. And one other local issue, which may be bubbling up again, literally, is USA Springs apparently is, potentially has a buyer, which I guess is, who is interested in continuing the bottling operation, potentially. So I think if that becomes a possibility, you know, you will want state reps who can advocate for the town in Concord. So I guess I'd open it up to, you know, whatever concerns you folks have or what questions you have.
Questions? All right, so I'll ask two. So Hal, I certainly know you know, you've been in this chair before. So when you talk about the state needing to be more responsible from a funding, and unfortunately the town is the level that has the levers, right? What do you think the options are for the state in order to, you know, to take on more of the burden?
Well, I mean, they have to raise revenue somehow.
So what do you think are the ways to do that?
That has to be worked out. It definitely has to be fair. You know, we don't want regressive taxation. I think the property tax is certainly regressive. You know, it's not based on income, it's simply based on whatever property you happen to own.
Yeah,
And we know that it falls really heavily on elderly folks.
yeah,
And people are actually forced to sell houses in some cases, and that's, you know, just not right. So, you know, we need fair taxation. They would have to be worked out. It's obviously in New Hampshire, there's a huge bias against any state taxes of
Yeah.
any sort.
yeah,
But we do have an income tax on interest and dividends. We do have a sales tax on rooms and meals. So, you know, for people to say we don't have an income tax is not true, and to say we don't have a sales tax, that's not true. It's just, you know, we have to modernize government in New Hampshire. It's, if you look at all the state functions, whether it's, you know, the aid to the towns, or it's taking care of state infrastructure, or providing mental health services. I mean, we're sending mentally ill people to the state hospital because we have no place for them. And that's, you know, just not right. I mean, so no matter where you look, you know, New Hampshire has an extremely lean government to the point where it's too lean, I think you could argue.
okay,
So do I have a solution?
okay,
Not really.
okay,
It's a tough nut to crack.
okay, great. So, Tom, you talked about the opioid crisis, which, you know, I agree with you is, you know, for all communities and states, a big issue. In your mind, I mean, you talked a little bit about a couple of the, things that you think are important, but ultimately, at the end of the day, what do you foresee as, you know, when you think about some of the things that you think needs to be done, what do you foresee as the impact on local police departments? Because a lot of, you know, a lot of times it's our guys on the front line who are out there.
And gals.
Yeah, well, I use guy,
I know.
hey guys.
I know.
But our officers who are on the front line, so, you know, what do you think is gonna be the impact on them, and how can we help them?
Well, in the meeting that I went to with our own LEOs, I was very struck by their awareness that we can't arrest our way out of the crisis. We've been trying to do that, I grew up in the 60s, we've been trying to do that since, the war on drugs first began. And it's obviously not successful. We've tried a few different education programs. DARE comes to mind, which had some impact, but there are other programs that are being proposed by New Futures. So I go back to the New Futures plan, since those people know much more about it than I do. Their plan is focused on recovery and on education. They are much less oriented toward law enforcement, although the law enforcement people obviously have to be involved as well. But right now, what's happening with our own LEOs in Candia is they are trying very hard to get people into treatment. They aren't really looking to bust the average street person that's just overdosed. They're looking to get that person into treatment. So I think really treatment is probably the main thing. It's like stopping the bleeding. But ultimately education, and that includes teaching parents, I think, more about education, how to raise their kids to be a little bit more resistant to peer pressure. I think that is ultimately going to be the most powerful weapon. I don't think really we're ever going to get away from it entirely. I think it's always going to be here. I mean, we have alcohol is legal. We've never been able to get to the point where we have zero problems with alcohol. We will never get to the point where we have zero problems with the illegal drugs. But trying to get it back down.
Do we have enough treatment facilities in New Hampshire?
We do not. At least that is the information that I have from New Futures. And one of their plans is directly, or one of their points, they have 5 points. Let me run through the 5 points. The 5 points are making Medicaid expansion permanent. And the reason for that is that we don't have enough beds in the state for this specific issue. Since we don't have enough beds, the question becomes, how do we get more beds? Well, to get more beds, you have to build more facilities. If you're going to be a hospital and you're going to build more facilities, you want to know that the funding is ultimately going to be there. You don't want to build a bunch of facilities for beds that addicts can't afford to get into.
Right.
So the Medicaid expansion, making that permanent, is intended to provide that glimmer of hope for hospitals to be able to afford more beds. That's the first point. See if I can remember them all. The next point is the legislature, in its traditional manner, funded a substance recovery program that is called the Alcohol Fund, and that program was supposed to have a 5%, take 5% of the profits from our alcohol sales and divert those to recovery programs. That program, like I said, just like the legislature always does, they pass something that looks really good and then promptly refuse to fund it. That has never been fully funded. So the next point is fully funding that alcohol program, actually bringing the money out of the liquor stores and putting it into there so that it has, so that people have the resources to be able to do treatment. Let's see, there's 1, 2, I'm gonna lose count. There is another point of Medicaid and insurance in general. One of the things that happens right now is, let's suppose you're a person who has recovered from either alcohol or opioids. You are now in recovery, and now you have, I don't know, an abscess or some other surgical procedure. You need your surgical procedure. Your insurance company, you go and you get your surgical procedure. Your insurance company has its little schedule that the doctor does his prescriptions by. So the doctor runs through and he says, oh, I've got to prescribe opioids for this person. The person is like, wait a minute, I'm in recovery. I don't really want to take opioids because that's going to put me right back in the same hole. Well, you have to appeal that with your insurance company, which takes 2 or 3 days. So now you're waiting 2 or 3 days, you're hurting, but your option is go take opioids. So that's another of the points. The other 2 points are providing more resources for education and support of recovery counselors. Right now, recovery counsel people have on the scale of social workers and doctors and so forth, they are very low paid. So if you have the credentials to do various things, your choice, maybe your choice is recovery, maybe your choice is some other sort of social work. It's very tempting to go for the others because the others are much more lucrative. So there is the desire to help people get trained in the recovery arena, and also to provide better support for them once they are trained. And having said all of that, I've lost track. I had that last one there.
It's okay, it's not a quiz.
But there is another point, and no doubt about an hour from now, I'll.
There you go, there you go.
So those are the things that I know about. Oh, I remember what the other point was now. So you always prevaricate for a while, and then it comes back to. The other point was to provide age-appropriate education-based education, starting right in kindergarten. The education is not only the effects of how different drugs happen, but the number one issue really is peer pressure. You know, you're hanging out with your friends, and your friends are like, hey, you know, try this, it's really good, right? Or, you know, you can all work out the scenarios for yourself of how somebody gets pushed into trying something that maybe they didn't really want. A big piece of this kind of education is teaching not only kids in school, but also parents. And I saw this at the community meeting that we had, where the law enforcement officers were actually offering to parents who had come up with problems that they'd had communicating with their kids. The LEOs were actually driving the idea that, you know, you've got to reach out to the kids. If you can't reach out to the kids this way, then you talk to these other people and try to get them to come out in a different direction. You know, I raised teenage kids. My kids were very difficult for me to speak to. I was a difficult child, but I had the good fortune of having another adult in my life, totally unrelated to me, who took me aside and said, you know, this stuff is bad, stay away from this stuff. You know, I listened to him. I wouldn't listen to my dad, who said the same thing. I don't know why that is.
I've never experienced that.
You know, so strategies like that, and the education is data-based. It's based on things that have presumably worked. So I'm not an expert in these things. I'm listening to what the experts are telling me, and in my own experience, that 5-point plan is the most integrated and coherent that I've heard. And the LEOs that I talked to seem to be on board with it. So that's where I'm going. If I hear something better, I'm open to it.
I think with kids, it's also, it's not just about peer pressure, but it's often, you know, boredom. And so I think that the more that you can have kids engaged in things that they're passionate about, then the less likely they are to be bored and susceptible to peer pressure in those situations.
I do agree.
Yeah.
From my own parenting experience, it's also vital to be on top of who the kids are hanging out with,
Exactly.
where they are, you know. Oh, you're going to Johnny's house? Is Johnny's parents there? Oh, yeah. Okay, let me call them.
Exactly, yeah.
But I agree too. I mean, you got some kids out here that they don't believe there's any hope for them at all. I mean, they go high school, if they don't go to college. I mean, the jobs in New Hampshire, I mean, some of them are awful. I mean, low paying, no benefits, not even a stitch of retirement. And I think that's what brings a lot of people down, and they get on these things. But I would also say that the doctors need to do a better job too, as far as, you know, you bump your elbow or something, you don't need drugs, just do it like we used to do, you know, and you'll get better. But
Yep.
it's
I do agree. And in the realm of unintended consequences, something that surprised me, it happened right here. I was here on primary day, and a woman spoke with me a little bit, and the restrictions that have been placed on doctors to make them a little bit more reluctant to just willy-nilly prescribe opioids have actually impacted her, because her doctor, she has chronic pain, and she has had to go through more difficulty getting her doctor to prescribe her what she needs for her chronic pain. I don't have the answer where that balance lies, but one of the things that I did have seen, and you all have probably seen it too, is you can't do anything without affecting something else. Everything is connected somehow. To your point about the economy, there are some people in Deerfield that I know that work for what they call the Campaign for a Family-Friendly Economy. And this also addresses another issue that we have in New Hampshire, that we have the youth out migration. People are leaving the state, just as you mentioned. I think that that's tied into drug use, as you mentioned. I think if you feel that you have no economic path upward, then what the heck, I might as well get high, you know? I mean, what's the difference? So I think that the Campaign for a Family-Friendly Economy is oriented toward raising the minimum wage and providing better insurance opportunities for people and providing better daycare for people. All of those things are, you know, as a young family, that was a problem for us. We were both, well, I'm an engineer and my wife was a master, she has a master's degree in education. So we had pretty good resources as young people in Candia, you know, 35 years ago. So we could afford daycare and so forth, but many kids, even the ones that are just coming out of school, don't have those same resources, and they're coming out with huge amounts of debt. So, you know, obviously we have to do something to improve that economic opportunity for everybody. So.
Hal, how much have you been aware of or paying attention to what's happening with Pawtuckaway and the DES pulse releases when the Lamprey River gets low? How much have you followed or heard grumblings about that?
I haven't really followed much. I know when I was on the board is when they instituted that plan, and I was actually thinking about it a month or so ago, that it's been a really dry summer, so they've probably done a few releases, but
Yeah, they have. The lake is pretty low.
yeah.
Yeah, and DES came out and said, well, guess what? We normally start to draw down the lake on Columbus Day weekend, but we're gonna wait 2 extra weeks, so you get 2 extra weeks. Well, everybody already has their boats out because
Yeah.
the water's so low. But I would encourage both of you to stay engaged with the Pawtuckaway Lake Improvement Association and, you know, offer whatever resources you can to that organization, not just on this issue, but, you know, we have a milfoil outbreak this year. And the milfoil isn't coming from the funding launch where, you know, we've done an excellent job of, you know, doing boat inspections, but it's come from the campground, from the state park, and from the boat launch that's in the state park. And, you know, we are fortunate that we have, you know, a very good relationship with DES, and they've, you know, helped with eradication, but complete eradication is nearly impossible. So, again, there's a number of issues that I think, in addition to staying connected with the town, that you should stay in close and constant contact with the PLIA as well.
Yeah, yeah, I did go to the Pleasant Lake meeting a few months back, and
Yeah.
I looked up the PLIA meeting, but it had already passed.
There's actually a board meeting tomorrow night.
Oh, there is?
Yep. You know, and that may be short notice, but I can ask them to put you guys both on their meeting agendas. I mean, on their mailing lists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep.
Where and when is the meeting?
Tomorrow night, I believe it's here, and I think it's 6:30. No, maybe not.
Let me check.
Maybe not.
Perhaps on the town website?
It's not on the town website because they're a separate organization. It's
No,
not.
I do put them on there.
Oh, do you?
It's in this building.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in this building, and it's at 6:30. All right, other questions, you guys, or anything else? Tyler? Chris?
Thank you, no.
All right, well, thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
I don't think that we mentioned, but one thing that we found out, a lot of our literature started months ago, you know, our little handouts and things, and we included information that voting would be here, just as it was at the primary.
Yeah.
And that information didn't promulgate up to the Secretary of State's office, and we also didn't catch it until just recently. And I know in talking with various people around Nottingham, not everybody knows about it. So possibly a few people that watch this might want to be reminded to check your town website and make sure they know where the voting is.
Yeah, Yeah, people are trying to make that clear in a couple of different ways, like we were talking earlier about putting the signs up in front of the school. The Nottingham Blast email has been covering it. I believe it's been on the Facebook community pages, so,
Yep,
Yeah.
I just wanted to be sure to get
Yep.
it into this.
Yeah.
Yep. great. Thank you for coming in, and good luck to both of you.
Thank you for
very
having
much.
us.
Thank you for your
Thanks.
time.
All right, so we did the intro to tax rate setting. That's everything you wanted to cover there, right, Chris?
Yep.
So now we're on to veterans credit.
Yeah, I wrote to you this week with about a change in the law on the veterans tax credit. I don't need anything from you, but I wanted you to have the information. The state legislature has opened up the option to expand the veterans tax credit from just those who served during specific wartime periods to all veterans. And you have all the background on that and a guess at how many people it might affect. And if you wanna pursue it, you can let me know. If you know, there's a petition option available to people if, I don't know if
If
anybody.
we don't offer it, if we don't extend it, people can petition, okay?
Yeah.
So don't we usually do this at town meeting? So we have like there's like 3, right? Tax credits, blind, veterans, and
Elderly.
elderly. Because there's the state, what the state recommends, and then the towns can, do we need to,
This would have to be
Bring
approved
this-
by town meeting.
at okay,
Yeah,
March, yeah.
So you're asking for us to put, we would essentially put,
I'm not asking you to do anything. I just wanna make sure you know that it's out there. This is a change in
Okay.
law.
Yeah, we have
There's been
time
some
to,
inquiry
all
about
right,
it.
fine,
Um,
all right. So everybody read up on it, and then we'll discuss next time if we need.
yeah, if you wanna go further with it, we can.
Okay. All right, I think that covers everything on the public agenda, unless there's anything you guys wanna bring up. Charlene?
do we wanna talk about the voting and when we're gonna,
Oh, yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah, so November 8th?
I will be here from 7 to close, I guarantee it. Taking the day off, I will be here.
You won't be here.
Well, that's a, I'll be here telling people it's
you'll
up
be,
there.
yeah, go.
You'll be a big help being here,
I'll be
Tyler.
here telling people you're in the wrong place, it's at the
He's gonna be standing and go,
I'll be at
wow,
the
low
school."
turnout.
So I can do like 2 or 3 till close.
All right, so I can do like the 8 to 2 then.
And you're gonna,
You,
you're gonna go through the whole day?
Yep, the whole day and,
Do you know what you're in for?
oh, bunch of crazy stuff, yeah. Listening to the hooting and the hollering and.
From 8 till
it's a long day.
Oh, yeah,
10?
no, I know, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause it's gonna go,
It's gonna be counted.
Well, I usually spend election day in Epping
okay,
at my old civics teacher. I've done it since I was like 19, so.
okay,
Okay,
okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
okay.
All right,
Charlene, what are your hours again?
I'll do like 3 to closing.
okay. Okay, so I'll do 8 to 3.
And I'll do
To do the
the whole
whole,
thing, yeah.
whole
Okay,
kit and
'cause we can
caboodle.
try to find like one other person if you want a break or anything. Okay.
No, I'll be fine.
Yeah, I've been at the close for the last 2, so,
Yeah, and I'm used to doing the close.
yeah. I think one of the things that, that I hope people consider this time is that I don't think many people, excuse me, realize that, write-in ballots have to be hand counted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with this particular election, there's gonna be a lot of people who want to write in Bozo or Fred Flintstone or some of the names like that. And, you know, I certainly respect everybody's, you know, right to do that. I just hope people consider that it will keep our people here later, counting ballots. So just some food for thought for folks. All right, so I said 8 to 3, correct?
You said 8 to 3, I said 3 to closing.
I'm 8 to,
Tyler said he's in it for the whole
In it for the
thing.
long haul.
8 to close, 7 to
He's diving right in. And I think that was,
Well, thank you, Tyler.
pack a lunch.
Yeah,
Will
well,
there be
there'll
food?
be food, I think.
Will there be? Because it's gonna be at the
I
school.
thought I heard somebody say that, I thought I saw Shelley said or wrote somewhere that there would be food.
More confident that there'll be food for the election workers.
Yeah, for the election workers,
Yeah.
yeah.
There will be any
Yeah, yeah,
social
true.
food activity.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep. Tyler, I would say, since this, so our primary responsibility is to make sure that the, you know, that the location is set up properly
Yep.
for, you know, voting. We delegate that to Chris. And so all of that will be done the night before,
Before,
as
yeah.
we've talked about. So honestly, the polls open at 8. I don't believe you need to show up at 7.
Yeah.
I think if
I
it's,
would imagine there'll be people standing outside.
yeah, but I think if you get like 7:30-ish.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
you'll be
'cause
fine.
I like that, I'm gonna vote before I get started or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can also do it at some time that's slow during the day,
Yeah.
you know. All right, excellent.
And what about the night before? Do you still need trucks, Chris, or?
Yeah, the afternoon before, I think we're gonna be all right.
Okay,
I think if you, I wouldn't come home early to do that.
okay.
I can
Got a
probably,
few.
I can trade vehicles with you. You can just take the truck and I can take my car, your
Okay.
car. I'll bring it up and we'll swap,
Okay,
all right?
that'll work.
Okay. Anything else? All right, we're gonna go into non-public. And then there'll be no further business after the non-public session, so we'll just come out and close the meeting. So we need a motion to go into non-public under B,
D as in,
D. All right, I'll
don't
take
talk too much.
Let's
The
take
E, is it E as well?
D.
You could do E also, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll make a motion that we, enter non-public per RSA 91 dash A colon 3, 2D and E.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
I, Donna Danus.
I, Shelley Anderson.
Aye, Tyler Eaton.
All right.